Welcome to Reinventing Yourself in Changing Times, the Summit series on finding clarity, direction, and the next steps in your life journey. I'm your host, Mita Wise, wellness entrepreneur, and here today with us is Christine Jandali. Christina, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes, well, Christina is a confidence-boosting, cash-creating business growth strategist who helps coaches and course creators build a raving fan base and produce scalable profits by hosting Facebook groups. She is a self-made millionaire who started her business from ground zero during maternity leave from her corporate job when she decided it was time to build her own dreams, not someone else's. She's since worked with thousands of entrepreneurs across the globe to create their own predictable cash flow machines. And her summit topic today is how to get paying clients with Facebook groups. So Christina, thank you so much for coming here today. And you're all the way, we're in Canada right now?
Yes, in Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, that's lovely. So Christina, tell us a little bit about your story and how you got here. Many paths, many different things you do. So tell us about you.
Yeah, so love the topic that we're talking about too in regards to reinvention through this series, which I think is happens sometimes more than a few times in our lives, right? And ultimately is kind of a bit of my own story in that I was working at a corporate job. I was working in finance. And so essentially I was managing wealthy people's money. So wealthy people would come and they'd bring their money and invest it in the stock market, bond market, mutual funds, all of that stuff, and do financial planning. And so I had a nice cushy salary. I had money in the bank. I had the house. I had the husband and the brand new baby, all of the things from the outside looking in, all the boxes checked that you think that you could want. And yet with all of those things, I just still felt like there was something that was missing, right? Something that wasn't, even though outwardly, yes, all those things that we think that we, all the shoulds in life were there and ticked off, it just felt like something was missing. And I didn't really quite know what that was. And just having this sort of, this lingering thought or belief that maybe I'm meant to be doing something else. And it wasn't really until my daughter was born that I remember coming home from the hospital with her and just wanting all the world of possibility for her to live her best life and her greatest life and to have anything and everything that she wants in life. And when I was hoping and wanting that for her, I realized that how was I expecting her to live that out if I didn't feel like I was living that out for myself? And that's when I realized that we learn so much, and we know this, right? We learn so much more from what people do, not what people say. And so I made a promise to her and to myself at that moment that I was going to pave the way of possibility and demonstrate to her what it was like to go after that. And so that was like a massive reinvention. I had no idea what else I was going to do. I'd spent 15 years building up this career, and it was all about like starting to explore and uncover like what was I good at, what were my skills and gifts and talents, and how could I turn that into a business in a way that fuels me, fires me up, and makes the level of impact that I knew that I wanted to make. And there was all that messy things along the way to get there, and a lot of figuring things out. But it really started with giving myself permission to be able to just go after it.
Wow. So I know you work in the area of business a lot. What does reinvention mean, do you think, to the people that you serve, reinventing themselves?
Yeah, I think that it could mean multiple different things. I mean, for me, I know that there's many people that come into my space that may have a previous career or previous experience of what they were doing and then want to, for myself, it was like transitioning from corporate into an entrepreneur, into starting my own business. And that was a huge reinvention. I think that after you have children, there's a huge reinvention of just readjusting your life. And I also have definitely been in the experience, especially if, at the time of recording of this, we're about a year or so into the pandemic. And at the point, at the time that we're recording this is really taking a look at many of my clients have had to reinvent themselves where they had offline businesses that were super successful and they've had to pivot online and make those adjustments and reinvent themselves. Or maybe they had a previous business that left them overworked and underpaid and overwhelmed and burnt out, and they've had to reestablish and reinvent themselves in a new way that better supports what they actually really want in life. So I think that there's many different avenues that you can look at it, but it's really taking a look at like that transition and stepping into possibility is the way I look at it.
That's nice. I like that. So your topic today is how to get paying clients with Facebook groups. So tell us a little bit. more about that. Is having your own Facebook group the right next step for everybody? And how does that work?
So, especially since we're talking about, you know, reinvention here, is that when we're venturing into something new, it's a lot of that unknown. And so much like when I first started my business, things were happening a lot slower than what I had expected. And and I just felt really cold. I'd send out an email. I was building this online email list, and I didn't know who was on the other side. And back in my corporate days, it was all about relationship building. It was about connection. It was about the building a network, ultimately building that network. And I wasn't really doing that. And so when I realized I could create that level of connection to build those relationships with a Facebook group, I started my Facebook group. And I knew that I wanted to serve at the time. I wanted to serve and work with women that were, you know, transitioning from corporate to their own business. And that's what I could relate to, because that's kind of what I had been processing through. So I started building a community for these people. And it was through building that community that I really uncovered my voice, that I really uncovered what it was that I liked helping people with. It's where I really started to just discover who I wanted to work with and who I didn't want to work with. And so it was through this community that gave me the opportunity to really step into that next level of success. It helped me figure out what the heck I was going to do when I grew up in a way that was more clear. And so I see it as the opportunity, whether you're just getting started and you're exploring something new, to be able to create a community of people that are super supportive and connected, and building those relationships as you're figuring it out. Or it also gets to serve you if you're already down that path, and maybe you already have a business and you're recognizing that you want to expand and grow even further, how you can use a group to be able to facilitate that and build those deeper relationships with your people. Because the truth of the matter is, things are shifting in the marketplace right now, and people are craving more humanness, more connection, more certainty in the people that they're going to do business with. And that just doesn't happen in a flash. It really gets to be created through that environment of the experience. So I see a Facebook group as the opportunity to either gain clarity on what direction you're going to go, or to build those deeper relationships so you have the opportunity to be able to scale up your revenue.
That's great. How do you attract your ideal clients without wasting hours on things that just don't work?
Yeah. So I think that, you know, when we take a look at, let's think about it from this perspective. You go in a mall, and in a mall, there's all the different shops, and they have window dressing. Like they have the mannequins out there, and they've got like the little taste testers, the little window dressing on the outside of the store. And you walk by and you look at the store and you decide, okay, do I want to go in or not? Right? Like, does that look interesting or not? And so we make our choice of whether we're going to go in or not. So in order to bring people into your group, you've got to have something to entice them or invite them to. Like, so what is it going to be that window dressing that's going to call in your people? For some of you, maybe it's going to be about answering a top of mind question for your ideal client in some way, a question that they just want to get a quick answer to. Maybe for some of you, it's you're hosting an event or a giveaway or some sort of series inside of your group, and you're inviting people to participate. So you want to make sure that you're highlighting and addressing like what's in it for the people that are coming, and share that. And there's basically 3 forms of traffic that you get to have. So traffic is kind of like where you're visible, where people have the opportunity to see you, where you have that first touch point. So you have free traffic. So let's say you're just outreach, one-to-one outreach connection. You can have introduction like you and I here, right? Having this like warm introduction and interview that we're having is a free method of being able to do that. You can do podcasts, you can do guest blogging, you can do social media, many, many different avenues where you can present and share, I've got this thing, would you like to come? So that's free methods. Then there's paid traffic. So you can pay, of course, pay to play. So you can pay for Facebook ads or some level of advertising. You can pay for media, right? Some media is free, some media is paid. So you can pay for sponsorships, media, all sorts of things to invite people to come in. And then the third is joint venture traffic. So that's where you get to host an interview series, or you get to host a giveaway, or you get to host a panel of people that are coming on, and they're giving you a warm referral introduction to their audience and their people. So those are kind of the 3 methods of generating traffic, where you get to put that window dressing and invite people in with a free gift, with an answer top of mind question, or a free experience.
And I know you have a special Facebook naming formula. Why is that important?
Ooh, yes. So just like with anything else, names matter, right? That first impression. And so I see so often Facebook group hosts, they start a group and then they try and come up with like a cute name or a play on words where the word, like you kind of have to look at the spelling of the word to get what they mean, and before we really understand what it is that what it is that they want to use. And so if someone's using a play on words and trying to be cutesy or make a play on their names, there's no benefit to the person that is observing and looking at it saying, okay, you want them to know immediately when they see the name of the group, like this is for me or it's not for me. And if it's not clear, if it's not concise, if it's not direct, then people have no idea. And you can have the best group with the best community and the most amazing things going on, and people will walk by it because they don't know it's for them. And so the naming of your group is incredibly important. And I've got a little something for you guys that'll help you with that later, which we can talk about later.
Yes, sure. What never to do when you're growing your Facebook group with thousands of ideal clients?
Yes. So many things not to do. So we'll shrink it down. So many things not to do. Number one is you don't want to speak to everybody, right? And so we always gravitate, if we go to a party or we go anywhere, or we're going to meet people, we're always going to gravitate to people that are like us, that are similar to us, that we have something in common with, that we feel a connection to. And if we try and please and speak to everybody, like I can help everybody, I want a group for all women in the world that I can make a difference for, we're never ever going to come into focus. So it's really important that you narrow down and get clear as to who you want, who's the right person and who's not the right person. And sometimes it helps even starting with, who do I not want? Right? And cross off the list, cross those off the list. And then when you have that list, you can look at, okay, what's the opposite of that? Sometimes we don't, it's an easier way to come to like who we get to serve, come to that. And that helps uncover what that is. So I think we want to make sure that you're very clear and specific when it comes to that. The second thing I would say is what not to do if you're building a group is just flood it with lots of information and tips and strategies and forget about the humanness, right? And community is created from human connection. It's from the humanness. And so often we need to feel important enough that if we just give more information, if we just give more value, if we give more stuff, we're going to then be deemed worthy to be, the leader of the group, deemed worthy to be the expert. And that's just simply not the case. When you build a community for other people, your authority automatically gets elevated. So don't forget the humanness, because that's what people remember. They remember how you left them feeling, not what you said, not what you did, but really how you left them feeling. And that's the most important piece of everything. And yes, back that up with the value you bring, but that is not the thing that's going to create the community that you crave inside of your Facebook group.
Thank you for reminding us about that. So important. So why there's many things that we've learned about having our own Facebook group, but some of them are wrong. What other alternatives do we have?
Alternatives to Facebook group?
Alternative to things that we've learned about having a profitable Facebook group.
So I think that, and I'm not sure this is where you want me to go with it when it comes to alternatives to, what's in a profitable Facebook group, or what are other, like in the sense of other ideas for what to do inside of your groups. I think that we're so often taught, what's taught out there is like, give more value, and then you can, receive this. And, we measure ourselves often on metrics, right? We measure ourselves on how many likes do we have? How many comments do we have? How many responses do we have? Are people engaging? Are they posting? Are they doing these things? And we measure ourselves on all of these outward ego metrics, I like to call, and we measure that our success based on all of these other things. And so what happens is we then put all our time, effort, and energy focused on, oh, I got to get more likes. I got to get more comments. I got to do all these other things. And we look at that as the measure of success and the measure of a win. And that's just simply not the case. And so I think we need to make sure that we stay very focused as to like what really matters, because there's people that are in your group that are lurking, they're watching, they're tuning in, they're watching your videos, they're reading your posts, they feel deeply impacted by you. And you may not even know that they exist because they haven't commented or shared anything. And so we want to make sure that we're really tapped into that human connection that's in there, and recognizing that there's going to be people that are in your group that you get to speak, it's that you get to speak into, that you get to serve, that you get to support. And we can't forget about them in favor of just the ego metrics that make us feel good. Because if we do that, we're going to stop and start with our content. And then we're going to end up breaking trust with the very people that are tuning in and paying attention to what it is that we're doing and the words that we have to share with them.
Mm. And if we want them to go further and become paying clients, what's a good little path for that, as well as being human at the same time, right? But also guiding them on a path to results and to having a paying client.
So to have a paying client, you must make offers, step one. And that's probably the biggest challenge often, is like actually making the offer and asking for the sale. Now, it depends what it is that you're selling. If you're selling private coaching or some sort of consulting or some higher ticket done for you services, you can certainly make an invitation to have a call with someone and have an enrollment conversation with them. If you want to be able to create paying clients in volume, rather than just have one or two people here, and you want to have people in volume and have groups of people coming through, then you really want to be creating a free experience that lays out the breadcrumbs, evokes desire and demand for your offer, so that by the time they get to that free experience, you can then make the invitation. But rather than to one or two people, you get to make the invitation to the broader group of people and start to see a bigger influx. And one of my favorite ways for doing this is hosting a 5-day challenge. Hosting a 5-day challenge, like a 5-day little mini course. At the end of it, you run a free like a masterclass webinar type training. You go through that, you make the invitation, and then you have your follow-up sequence to invite people in. So you're really bringing through people, like thinking about, okay, what's it going to take to create that buyer? Where do they need to be? And how are you starting to build momentum for them, and what it is that they're doing to create that inertia and movement for them to be moving forward, to make it the next obvious next step for them to continue on working with you in a deeper capacity through your paid programs and services.
Mm. And as people's Facebook groups grow, some people say that they start to feel a little bit overwhelmed. What is overwhelmed to you? What does that mean? And what is the way to deal with that?
So there's like a pandemic of the word overwhelm. And what happens is they think it makes it the easy way out for people, is that like, I'm overwhelmed and I shut down. That means I don't have to do anything. And so one of the questions that I often love to ask is that, by saying you're overwhelmed, what is that keeping you from taking responsibility for? What is it keeping you from doing? How is it keeping you safe? And it's not a good or bad thing. It's looking at it as like, anytime we're stepping into something new we've never done before, there is going to be a sense of overwhelm because we've never done it before, right? The first time we do anything, it's going to feel like a big deal. I remember the very first time when I first, when I started cooking, and I was like, oh my gosh, this feels overwhelming. I don't know what goes in what. I have to follow a recipe, right? And measure everything out, or baking and trying to put things together. It felt overwhelming. But over time, now there's no recipe books or anything. And it's just, flying off the cuff and being able to make different things. And there's no ounce of that, because it's something that I've reached a level of mastery with. And so the same goes for anything in your life. When we feel overwhelmed, there's one of two things. We either are stepping into something new that we've never stepped into before, and it's scary, and it's easier to say I'm overwhelmed than to actually move forward with it. Or we don't know how to prioritize, and there's many things that are calling for our attention, and we think that we have to do all of the things. And what we're looking at is, rather than the one thing that we have to do right in front of us, we're looking 10 steps, 20 steps ahead of ourselves. And that, oh my gosh, the stacking of all of these things, this is going to be so much. And it's because we're not prioritizing with what's just right in front of us. And when you just take that one step that's in front of you, and then the next step after that, and the next step after that, before you know it, you look back and you've done amazing things and created so much progress. But if we stay looking at this space and feel like we're like looking up at this massive boulder of all these things to do, right? As they say, like the way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Ultimately, is we really want to chunk things down and take a look at where it is that we're at. But I think that so often it's 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 a people look at saying when they're overwhelmed as a valid reason not to move forward. And that is the very thing that keeps the spinning and keeps the cycle of feeling that continuous overwhelm as more things are stacking and there's no movement, which is what creates the ultimate breakthrough.
Thank you. So before we start wrapping up, I know you're a mother and I know you're doing a lot of different kinds of programs. I've seen you out there. So tell us your secret. How do you keep it all together? Stay focused and relevant, maintain your freshness and your exuberance, which I feel, and serve your audience really well, which I also know that you do with all your heart. So give us your secret.
So it's interesting. It's interesting. I think we're all so different, and I really believe that we go through these levels of leadership that we get to grow through. And at the beginning, when I first started, when I first started my business and I had a baby and a toddler at home, and I was getting up early in the morning and I was staying up late, I was trying to work around nap times. I was like, oh my gosh, there's no time for anything. I'm exhausted because I'm not sleeping. The baby's up, and then the toddler's waking up, and all these things are happening. And what happens is, we'll briefly kind of talk through this, like that first level of leadership, we get exhausted from like one thing. We do one relatively big thing in our life and it takes us out. We're like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. I can't do this anymore. And then we have to recoup, and then we have to like recover and build our energy back up to be able to keep going. And that next level of leadership as we bump up is like, okay, we start getting a little bit better. Okay, now maybe I can do two things now. But then if you fail or something doesn't work, you get into this spiral of like, oh, it's not working. And then you talk yourself out of it. And sometimes it can take you a few weeks, a few months to get yourself out of it. And as you elevate your level of leadership, you eventually get to the point where you're operating from a place of you get fired up. That the failures and bumps in the road mean nothing about you, it means nothing about who you are as a person. And you're fueled with more energy in service because there's no stories, there's no triggers, there's no there's no attachment to the result. It's just that you get to show up fully and that you get to serve. And I think one of the things that's really helped me elevate my own leadership, of course, has been, working on myself, but even more than that has actually been endurance and doing endurance sports and, running my first marathons and running triathlons and stretching my capacity physically. And you guys, it's been a few years since I've done any races, but the mindset that you need to work through in order to cross the finish line on those big races it's not about it's like you've already trained, your body's trained, you're already at the point where your body has the capacity to do it. But mentally, are you there to be able to get through the discomfort and get through the pain and get through that moment? Because a few minutes after you push through that is like the opening up of feeling okay again and feeling good again, of getting that boost of energy. And so it's recognizing sometimes there's that short-term discomfort. And if you just like stretch a little bit more, all of the doors that open up. And so I've really had the opportunity to be able to take a look at that mental strength and that level of leadership that is required in business and in life and in endurance that carries over, knowing that this is just temporary, it's just a moment, and it's not going to take you out of the game. And recognizing that more like we take on what we can handle, and as we continue to expand and grow, we can our plates grow and we can handle much more. There's no way if I looked at myself, what I do in a month now, when I started my business, that I ever thought that would be possible. And I feel no heaviness around it. I feel fired up. I jump out of bed. I don't have an alarm. Like I'm jumping out of bed, ready, excited to start on the day. And it's just come from that mastery and that training and building up the endurance to be able to really go through that. And it's been well worth it.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I know you have a free gift. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So if you're looking to start your free Facebook group, or you already have one and you'd love to maximize it, I've got a little bundle for you. There's actually a bundle that we've sold in the past, and we're going to give it away to you guys for free. So it includes a perfect naming blueprint, so we can nail down the name of your Facebook group. in the perfect way so your people know that it's the right place for them. The second thing is a template to write your perfect intro post. So I think it's really important that you have that connection with people in the beginning. And what do you say? What do you not say? What do you include? All that stuff. So we've got that in there for you as well. And then the third thing that we have in there is a little grow your group, grow your Facebook group mini course, 5-step mini course that you can run through and start getting those first or next 100 members coming into your group in the next week.
Wow, that's exciting. Thank you. That's very generous. Viewers, click below for all Christina's links, including her free gift, Grow Your Group Bundle. Christina, any last words of wisdom? I know you've had a lot of words, good words.
Yes. I would say, you know, when you're going through this series, I know that you're getting loads of valuable information and really be able to hear many, many different people's stories. And I just really want to encourage you not to look at all of the pieces, like go through and then really get clear with yourself. What's like the one thing that you get to apply right now, right away, that's calling to you to execute on, that you get to move forward with, and just take one of those pieces at a time that you get to jump into. Because I know you're getting a lot of good things and you can come back to some of them later, but I want you to choose one that you're going to really fully commit to and give it your all.
Thank you. And thank you for giving us your time and energy and passion and expertise. Thank you, Christina.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and that was Christina Jandali, and I'm Mita Wise. So viewers, make sure you leave some comments and thoughts and give some positivity and some love to Christina and to our other speakers. Make sure to listen to the next interviews. And that's it for today. We'll see you soon.